Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you in the Chinese line. This is the Tier 9 Heavy, the WZ-111, 114, or whatever the fuck it's called. Difficult to distinguish what tank is what based on the name, but it's the Tier 9 Heavy anyway. We're going to have a look at blitzhanger.com for the tech spec as always, but before that we're going to have a bit of a timeout because this is a special video for me, special for a few ways. Firstly, the gameplay is not mine. It's actually John, one of my subscribers, and actually someone I now regard as a friend that I met through Blitz. One of the great things about Blitz is that you can meet actual real life friends, although we haven't met in person yet, but I hope to rectify that when I visit his home country of South Africa. And South Africa is like a second home to me. My mother lived there for a long time, and I had an apartment there for a long time as well, so it's a very special country. One of the most beautiful, and maybe in my opinion the most beautiful country in the world. We're going to have a look at some photographs here, some breathtaking scenery all along its amazing coastline. Its interior as well is fantastic. It's full of amazing scenery and also amazing people. It's an amazing place, both in terms of its geography, its aesthetics, and its people. Its people are wonderful. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the best government at the moment. It's not led by the great people that it had in the past. Obviously the great Mandela, but obviously before him F.W. de Klerk, obviously another visionary leader who led to the end of apartheid and the dawn of a new age. Those great leaders are gone, and they're suffering now somewhat under a lack of good leadership, but nonetheless the people are amazing. And South Africa is going through a difficult time at the moment with COVID. It has second or third highest number of COVID cases in the world, and it does lack the infrastructure due to lack of investment and endemic corruption at government levels to help deal with that. So I would ask maybe for you to, when all this corona stuff is over, maybe to visit South Africa to support the economy, because you won't regret it. It is one of the most amazing places in the world, and despite all its problems, it is somewhere which is very, very safe for tourists. I've been there myself as a tourist. I've also lived there, and my mother has lived there. It's a fantastic place to visit. And also your dollar, your euro, or your pound, or your yen, or whatever it is you're spelling, goes a long way there. Great value for money. Some spectacular scenery, spectacular nature, flora and fauna. To go on safari there is something very special. You can go cage diving with sharks. You can pretty much do everything under the sun in South Africa, and you will do it under the sun because the weather is beautiful as well. So if you go to South Africa, you will see things which you can't and won't be able to see in other countries in the world, and you will definitely have a wonderful time. And if after this COVID stuff is over, you can get there, support the economy, and help a lot of people and businesses get back on their feet, I think it would be a great thing to do. And you will be safe there. I was there for 2010 for a long time with the World Cup. And I have to say I felt completely safe when I'm there, and anytime I visited or been on holidays, or when I was with my mother there, and largely due to these guys, SAPS, South African Police Service. If ever there was a group of people who are underfunded, underpaid, undervalued, yet perhaps overworked, it's these guys. And at the moment it's particularly difficult for them with the COVID crisis, yet they and the other emergency services are putting their lives on the line to keep the citizens of South Africa safe, and they do a really, really wonderful job. The people of South Africa themselves need some help right now. So there is a worthy charity here, SOS Africa, children's charity. You can see the web page here. If you can donate something, that would be really fantastic. There's a lot of people, ordinary people of South Africa, of all ethnicities and backgrounds, are suffering right now. So if you could spare something, I'm going to put a link for this charity into the description. So if you can spare something, even $5, €2, £10, whatever currency you have, that money will go a long way and help a lot of very needy people in a great country. I would actually thoroughly recommend that you do that. rather than maybe buying the next premium tank. If you could put the money in there, I think it would be really a worthy cause. So with that, if indulgence aside, let us move on with the tech spec for this tank. As we said, a Chinese heavy tank. In terms of provisions, I would run standard and improved combat rations and improved fuel. That kind of maxes out the performance of this tank, and this tank is a good performer. It has two guns, 100 and 130 millimeter, which is a top gun. It says the lower gun has higher DPM, but that's not actually true, because that's theoretical DPM. You need a bigger gun for a higher actual DPM. With the bigger gun, you get 246 millimeters of pen with AP, going to 258 if you use calibrated shells. As with many Chinese tanks, heat is your primo. You get 320 millimeters of pen with that, going up to 352 millimeters if you use calibrated shells. HE gives you 65 millimeters of pen, going up to 72 millimeters if you use calibrated shells. G index is poor, only 10.1k, so gun handling is not great. You get 460 damage points with AP, 390 with heat, and 600 if you can pen with HE. Muzzle velocity is not great, which is why the G index is low. It's 1209 meters per second. But all shells have the same muzzle velocity, so therefore shell management is a bit easier than if you've got rounds with different muzzle velocities, different speeds. As we said, heat is your primo, and you need to take note of this, because when you fire at the IS range, of which you're going to encounter many when you're up in tiers 9 and 10 and tier 8, of course, they have spaced armor on the side and the heat won't go through. Reload time is 12.48 seconds or 13.42 if you run calibrated shells, so it's basically a poor reload versus some of its direct competitors, such as the IS-8 for example. 5 degrees of gun depression, so it's kind of not really relevant, but it's 23 degrees of elevation, so it's kind of odd combination of really impressive elevation but poor depression. A decent power to weight ratio. It's really mobile. It does 40 kilometers per hour forward speed. It also has good traverse, so therefore it's an effective brawler. When you combine that with the effective armor, we're going to have a look at the armor profile in a bit, you'll see that this tank is a very competitive, tough brawler, particularly if you're top tier. When we look at the armor profile here, you will see that it has impressive armor at the sides. It also has spaced armor at the sides, which means that heat and HE are going to be absorbed if it hits that spaced armor. You can see here, you can side scrape in this tank. If you look at the relative armor numbers in the top left of the screen, you can see they're all red. It's going to bounce shots all day long. Here we're looking at a typical side scraping position. You can see that this tank will side scrape very effectively. It also has decent frontal armor on that pike nose. You'll get some bounces off it. You're going to get bounces off it when you're moving as well. Also, just think about it. It's moving at 50 kilometers an hour in forward. It's really fast. And if you're moving at that speed with that armor profile, you're going to get bounces, because it's very difficult to pen a tank that's moving so quickly. The armor angles, the aspect that it's presenting to the enemy is constantly shifting, and you're going to get bounces without even playing for them. So its armor profile is very effective. As we said, you can side scrape, you're going to get some bounces off the front. If we look here, when you are top tier, you can see that you can be a top tier bully. Really only the bottom plate is vulnerable, that's it. Even at your own tier, again, pretty effective, and even when up tiered, you know, with the exception of the bottom plate, it's difficult to pen this tank front on. And if you side scrape and make those difficult angles, present the armor aspects at acute angles to the opposition, you're going to get bounces. In terms of tactics for this tank, it's very much a quintessential heavy tank, but because of its speed, you can actually, if you want to, follow the mediums, or you can use it as a really tip of the spear heavy tank, particularly if you're top tier. Push on, seize those strategic positions on the map, get into a side scraping position, and you can be the anchor for your whole team. In terms of sniping, it's not so great because the gun handling is not good. Over distance, it's going to be patchy. And we'll have a look at some gameplay now, and we'll see the tank in action. Now we're going to have a look at our mastery game here. I'm very happy that I can show you this game because firstly it's a great game, secondly it's from a subscriber and friend, John, and also because I'm often a lazy fucker, it means I have to shoot the game myself, which is just really fucking great, so it's a double whammy for me. This is going to be a mastery game, as we said. You're going to see the tank play to its strengths. By the way, I should probably point out that, normally when I show my gameplay, I always have the tanks up at 100% crew. As you understand, this is only at 77% crew training, so it's even more impressive. And when you see a shot like that, it's really impressive to make a shot like that when you don't have full crew. And we know that the gun handling in this tank is a little bit patchy at only 10,000 gun index score. I think, we're going to have a look at some of the key characteristics demonstrated well in this game. In particular, the gun handling maximized, but also the armor profile. You're going to see a lot of bounces in this game as well. Some big bounces coming up to demonstrate just how effective this is and how good this is as a heavy tank. If you remember the heavy tank role that we discussed in the heavy tank guide, right, there is a particular role, a job that a heavy tank has to do, to be the tip of the spear, to take the fight to the enemy, to anchor key positions, to seize strategic positions on the map for your team. And you can see here in this game that this is exactly what happens, is exactly what the tank is used for. Pushing up and seizing the key positions here on what would be C if we were playing on Supremacy. The tank, it is everything you want from a heavy tank. You can see here the armor in play. Look at that bounce. Beautiful bounce straight off the side, exactly off that. Relative armor numbers, exactly what we looked at in the Tech Spec, right? Nice snapshot here coming up. Boom. Clear him off. So, that's exactly what you want from a heavy tank, right? Exactly what you want from your heavy tank and your team. You want them pushing on, seizing strategic positions, and we know that this corridor here is a strategically very important position in this map. And Jan has just, seized this, pushed forward. His confidence in his tank, confidence in his ability to push forward again. Double whammy here, right? Nice damage in on the VK, plus a nice block coming up here, nice bounce off this big gun, right? And that's a big gun on the VK with big pen numbers, blocks that off, and that's exactly what you want from a heavy tank and exactly what you want from your heavy tank players in a game. Switches up the heat and we can see into the lower plate, clears him off. So we are just, gone just over 2.5 minutes into the game. 2 kills down, over 2k of damage dealt, and some nice damage blocked as well. That's exactly what you want from a heavy tank, right? I think often when we judge tanks in their roles, we judge them, about the tank's individual aspects, but also how it performs in the role that it should have in the game. And if you're looking for something that can push on, particularly when it's top tier, seize strategic positions and bounce shots, then this tank is exactly that, right? You can see here a number of big bounces already, and a significant amount of damage done. So, and this is all you can ask for really in a heavy tank. And when you combine that with the mobility of this tank, it is really an effective competitor. In terms of what the role should be at this point of the game, you want your heavy tanks pushing on, putting pressure on the enemy. Of course you need the tank, but you also need a player to make the right decisions, so we see the right decisions being made here. Pushing on, not giving the Reds a chance to relax, not giving them a chance to become comfortable, and that's what you need, particularly when there were 1 tank down and there's still 1 tank down. You need to put pressure on, you can't sit back. And a heavy tank, that's the job of the heavy tank, right? The heavy tank's job is to take hits, it's to attract shots from the enemy, to use its armour to bounce those shots and to give your team a chance to win, and this tank is great at that, and this is also a good demonstration of heavy tank play. Pushing on, you know, taking the fight to the enemy. You're going to take some damage, you're going to take some hits, but that's why you have that bigger hit pull point. This tank has 2,100 hit points, and that's why you have that, so that you can take the fight to the enemy, take some damage, and you know, absorb some shots, absorb some damage for your teammates, and then ultimately win the game. And in this case, not only win the game, but deliver a mastery badge. And you know, that's all you can ask for. You know, that's all you can ask for in a game from your heavy tank and your heavy tank players. And an excellent demonstration there from SAP's JPS, which is Jan's username, and a fantastic demonstration of JMS, fantastic demonstration of how to use this tank, and a fantastic demonstration of the tank's strengths. So I think, you know, if we summarize the gameplay there, I think it's a good demonstration. You see there's a steel wall. You know, any tank that's delivering the steel wall badge for you shows it has good armor. That's exactly what you want from your heavy tank. So let's have a recap on the key characteristics of this effective Chinese tier 9 heavy tank. So it's quintessential heavy tank. It plays the role really well, and there's a great demonstration of that in this game. You know, showing all the key characteristics that you want. The great armor, it's going to bounce shots. You saw there steel wall medal delivered, and you're going to get steel wall medals in this tank a lot because it just has a great armor profile. But it's also mobile and agile tank. It has that good power to weight ratio. It can get into those strategic positions that you want your heavy tanks in very quickly. It's a top tier bully, you saw that in that game, and it can be a frontline monster, as you saw in that game as well. If you are up tiered, then you need to be a bit more careful, but you can still support your heavy tanks with confidence. Low muzzle velocity, so therefore use supercharge and refined. Going to max out your gun handling. The reload is not great, right? It's 12.4 seconds or 13.4 if you use calibrated shells. So you need to be cognizant of this. You need to kind of make your shots count, and also be aware that something like an IS-8 has a much better reload. So be aware of that. The G index is just 10k, so it's not great. So therefore, again, you need to use refined gun to get that dispersion down. No real gun depression, only 5 degrees, but it does have that weird 23 of elevation, which gives it kind of okay gun alignment. 50 kph top speed is surprising. It will surprise a lot of enemy tanks as well, but that does enable you to get around the map and to seize those strategic positions. And that's really what this tank is about. Frontline, tip of the spear, heavy tank. Music was Puccini Tarando, actually, which is a opera set in China, which I thought would be a very apt for this video on the Chinese tank, and it's the overture and Perceta dalla Luna from Tarando, which is a fantastic opera. And I was lucky enough to see in the Vienna Opera House a few years ago one of the best live opera performances I've ever seen, and I would definitely recommend it if you haven't listened to it before. So cheers Mush, thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enjoyable, and I would just lastly say, please visit the Republic of South Africa, an amazing place, and if you can, donate to that very worthy charity and help the great people of the great country of South Africa. Thank you very much indeed. Take care, and I guess now all remains for me to say is pants off.